Welcome to this explainer. Today we're jumping straight into the fascinating and honestly kind of hidden engineering behind one of the most common features in your vehicle. We're going to take a structured look at the brilliant tech and research that's constantly running in the background, invisibly monitoring your tires to keep you safe on the road. Right, so we all know this glowing yellow icon. You've probably seen it, that little horseshoe shape with an exclamation point popping up on your dashboard out of nowhere. It is universally recognized, it frustrates millions of drivers, and it usually means you're about to spend 10 minutes at a gas station air pump, desperately hoping you have quarters. But have you ever actually stopped to wonder how your dashboard gets that information? Okay, let's dive into this. How exactly does a 2-ton machine speeding down the highway know that the back left tire just lost a few pounds of air? I mean, it seems like magic, right? But it's actually the result of some incredibly intense engineering, which was originally driven by some very strict government regulations. To really understand the tech, we have to look at the trigger. Back in June 2002, a regulatory rule known as FMVSS 138 was published. Basically, this mandate required vehicle manufacturers to implement tire pressure monitoring systems, or TPMS. Automakers were handed two really strict options for compliance. Option 1 meant the system had to warn the driver within 10 minutes if the pressure in 1 to 4 tires dropped 25% below the recommended level. Option 2 was slightly more lenient, requiring a warning within 10 minutes if just a single tire dropped 30% below that recommended pressure. So suddenly, the entire automotive industry had this massive problem to solve. And to tackle this exact same safety mandate, engineers basically split into two completely different technological paths. They developed two distinct philosophies. You have direct TPMS, which relies on literal physical measurement of the air, and then you have indirect TPMS, which relies on some seriously brilliant mathematical deduction. Section 1, Direct TPMS, the inside scoop. Direct TPMS is, well, exactly what it sounds like. It goes straight to the source. It involves placing actual hardware physically inside the wheel. A dedicated sensor and transmitter unit is attached directly to the rim, so it's sitting right inside the tire cavity, sharing space with the pressurized air itself. This highly specialized piece of technology doesn't just guess. It actively reads the absolute pressure and even the temperature inside your tire. But here's the catch. Because it's a discrete electronic device sitting inside a spinning rubber tube, it requires its own internal battery to power the signal conditioning and the transmitter. Now, as you might imagine, putting complex electronic sensors inside every single wheel is pretty expensive. To lower these high costs, manufacturers really had to innovate. Originally, Direct TPMS utilized a 4-antenna system, meaning there was a separate receiving antenna tucked in the wheel well for every single tire. To drive down costs, engineers evolved this into a 1-antenna system. They reduced the hardware footprint so that all 4 sensors transmit their data to just one central receiver and electronic control unit. Section 2, Indirect TPMS, the clever alternative. But what if you didn't want to put expensive sensors and batteries inside the tires at all? Well, that brings us to Indirect TPMS, which is honestly a masterclass in software engineering. Rather than adding new hardware, engineers realized they could mathematically interpret data the car was already collecting. Specifically, they decided to piggyback on the vehicle's anti-lock braking system, or ABS. The ABS already uses sensors to constantly monitor the exact rotational speed of every single wheel. So the ABS electronic control unit, which is hidden away under the dashboard, basically takes on a second job. It runs specific TPMS logic to process relative detection. By comparing the wheel speed signals sent from the toothed rotors of the ABS, the car can calculate if a tire is losing air, completely eliminating the need to put any electronic transmitters inside the wheels whatsoever. Section 3, the math behind indirect systems. Now you might be wondering, how does wheel speed tell you anything about air pressure? The first absolutely crucial point is the rolling radius method. The physics here are beautifully simple. When a tire loses air pressure, it sags. This means its effective rolling radius actually becomes smaller. And because the deflated tire is now slightly smaller in circumference than the fully inflated tires, it literally has to rotate more times to cover the exact same distance. The car's ABS sensors detect that one wheel is spinning faster than the others, and the computer deduces, hey, that tire must be flat. But they didn't stop there. Engineers also developed a second indirect method using resonance frequency. Think of a fully inflated tire like a tight, bouncy spring. As it loses air, its torsion spring constant is reduced. Basically, it loses its springiness. This physical change actually causes the tire's natural vibration frequency to drop as it rolls down the road. The car's computer sees this frequency change through the wheel speed signal. It isn't just a flat line, it has an amplitude and a frequency. By analyzing these tiny vibrations in the wheel speed data, the system can detect an absolute pressure drop, even if all four tires are leaking air at the exact same time, which is something the rolling radius method actually struggles with. Of course, out in the real world, detecting these tiny changes is incredibly difficult. Think about it. If a wheel is spinning faster, is it because it has low pressure, or is it just slipping because you stepped hard on the gas? To solve these false positives, developers integrated even more vehicle data. They started feeding engine torque information into the TPMS logic to rule out wheel slip from heavy acceleration. They also integrated cornering information from the car's stability control systems, so the computer wouldn't mistake the natural wheel speed differences during a sharp turn for a flat tire. And these indirect systems have improved drastically through these clever combinations. To put that into perspective, early indirect systems took anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes just to detect a flat, with an accuracy deviation of roughly plus or minus 10%. But by combining wheel speeds with stability control signals and resonance frequency, advanced indirect detection cut that time down to an astonishing 15 seconds to 1 minute. Accuracy improved to plus or minus 5%, and the system became capable of detecting multiple flat tires, even at speeds up to 250 kilometers per hour. That's a real game changer. Section 4. Direct versus indirect. The trade-offs. So, we have two remarkable engineering solutions, but which one is actually better? Well, on the plus side, Direct TPMS provides highly accurate absolute pressure measurements. Because it's literally reading the air, it can display the exact tire pressure of each individual wheel right there on your dashboard. Indirect TPMS, on the other hand, boasts immense reliability. Because it is purely software analyzing the robust ABS sensors, there is zero additional hardware cost and very little physical equipment that can break. In the real world, however, both systems can definitely cause headaches for drivers. The physical nature of direct systems means those little sensors have batteries, and those batteries eventually die, which means you have to replace them periodically. Plus, having a sensor integrated right into the valve heavily restricts what types of wheels you can put on the car. That is a major pain if you use snow tires. Indirect systems have their own flaw, though. They depend heavily on specific tire characteristics. Because they rely on math that's based on the factory tires, they can really struggle to guarantee performance if you buy aftermarket replacement tires that have a slightly different stiffness or radius. Section 5. The future of tire safety. Understanding these limitations is exactly what is driving the future of this technology. The ultimate takeaway for us is that both direct and indirect systems contribute massively to real-world safety, literally preventing blowouts and accidents every single day. And both are actively evolving. For direct TPMS, the industry focus is squarely on driving down the costs of those physical sensors. For indirect TPMS, progress relies on standardization. By identifying specific tire characteristics and standardizing exactly how a tire's radius changes under load, engineers can ensure the software logic works perfectly with all replacement tires in the future. We've seen how brilliant engineering transformed a basic government mandate into two highly sophisticated technological solutions. But it leaves us with a really exciting thought to wrap up on. What happens when we completely integrate active tire development with advanced TPMS logic in the smart, fully connected vehicles of tomorrow? I hope this explainer has shed some light on the hidden math and machinery working tirelessly to keep you safe on your daily commute.